Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to SimSpeed TV, where tonight the Ligier LMP3 cars are back on track for round 6 of the Südspeed Sportscar Series. For our 6th visit of the season, we head to the home of thousands of motorsport fanatics, all wearing orange. It is of course the venue of the Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort. Now in remodeled form on iRacing, these baby prototypes are sure to fly around these 14 high-speed corners that are full of banking and passing potential. I'm Bo Albert, and alongside me, as always, is Mr. Reese Gardner, with Daniel Yeaman stepping into the production booth for tonight to bring you all the pretty pictures you're watching right now. Reese, Zandvoort has been a staple of iRacing for quite some time, but there is plenty of reasons for us to be excited about our visit to the venue tonight.
Yeah, for sure. This is one of the first broadcasts I've done on the brand new layout of Zandvoort that has been added to the iRacing service. Underwent a couple of reconfigurations in 2019 for a planned return to Formula One in 2020, but of course there was a small pandemic type thing that delayed that to 2021, but it's certainly been very well received. A new banked corner, 2 new banked corners at Hugenholz and at the Arie Luijendijk bocht as well, and bit of a widening of a few turns in some places as well. It's certainly already been a really good track for racing, but it's been made even better with those changes.
Oh, absolutely. Of course, the banking allows so many different lines for the drivers to attack, in particular turn 3, where so often we talk about getting to the inside of the corner and hitting the inside curb, but you don't want to do that at turn number 3 or turn number 1 or many of the other corners around this circuit that have been redone, because all of a sudden using that banking and keeping the momentum up around the outside becomes a very good option. So defending your position in a race becomes so much harder because you never know what kind of line the attacking drivers are going to be choosing that time around. 4.2 kilometers at Zandvoort, and of course opened in 1948 as well. It is a great circuit. I cannot wait to see how the drivers get on tonight. Of course, currently making their way through the 15-minute qualifying session and all seeing what they can make happen right now. But we do have the return race of Sebastian Vandel, who is currently a championship leader.
Indeed, Vandel wasn't here last round at Motorland Aragon, but he still has a solid championship lead over his championship rival Brandon Groach. So I definitely think he's the one in the box seat to take the title from here on out, and it should be interesting seeing how he goes after a week out of the box, but he's still looking very pacey right now as things stand. This is the format, Bo, with qualifying in it at the moment. 2-race format, a 15-minute initial race and then 35-minute race 2 with an inverted top 10. This is the first time we've seen this format for a while. It was obviously the format for the first round at Donington Park and potentially one or more besides. But it was fantastic when we last saw it. I'm looking forward to seeing it back in action.
Absolutely. That pit stop in race number 2 really throws up a lot of curveballs, especially trying to plan around any potential safety cars that may crop up across the race distance. And as well, we can't forget that invert top 10 as well. So if you're unfamiliar with the Südspeed Sportscar Series, our top 10 finishes in race 1, congratulations. But we're going to flip you around for race 2, so the person who finishes 10th all of a sudden inherits the pole position for race 2, and that can create some very cool battles in at the end of race number 1, with drivers fighting over that 10th place in particular, and some drivers in 9th position maybe just thinking about sandbagging as well. We have seen plenty of strategies so far, and I'm sure round 6 is going to throw up a couple of new ones as well. Drivers getting settled into qualifying, just 2 minutes left on the clock at the moment, and it is Henry Fenson, your provisional pole sitter. A great effort by one of the Fenson brothers, who of course they've been strong all season long and are just trying to get themselves a little bit stronger as well. And in fact, a bit of drafting games happening at the moment in qualifying, with Henry starting to tow around Eric for a couple laps. So these Fenson brothers playing a bit of strategy immediately in qualifying race.
Yeah, good job there from the Fensons, helping each other out there and making sure they get the best speed possible down the straight. Tell you what, if you weren't aware of the conditions already, the transition from the B-roll to live pictures will certainly be a shock. It is foggy out there. Currently, track temperature is 32 degrees Celsius, air temperature only 19, with a relative humidity of 98%. So, goodness me, they are dealing with quite a lack of visibility out there at the moment.
They absolutely are, and it's not going to make things easy in a car that is already limited on visibility. To then have that layer of fog over the top, this is going to be a challenge and a half for our drivers. We go on board with Eric Fenson, who eats up all the curb he can. A little bit of a wiggle as well as he makes his way through the second sector on this particular lap. They're getting a draft off Henry Fenson. We'll see if Henry improves on this lap as well. There's plenty going on as they work their way through this very tight little section there. And of course, it's all about getting the speed, getting the exit drive as well, and just slowly build the momentum up for this very fast run to the end of the lap. But unfortunately, into the gravel is going to be an invalidation to the lap. So no improvement for Eric Fenson, but Henry Fenson goes to the start-finish line, needs to beat a 28.7. He's done a 28.9, very consistent, but not faster this time around.
Yeah, indeed. And looks to me like there's only a few seconds left in qualifying. So if you're not approaching the end of a lap now, hello, Dylan Walker. There's the end of a lap from him. He gets a 7.84 out of it, or 7.85. Only 0.02 of a second in it for pole position. How does Vandel respond to that? By going to the pits. So Sebastian Vandel, pace setter throughout the season, he's not going to start on pole position for this round.
No, he's not, and he was struggling in the practice sessions as well, so something not quite clicking for Vandel here at Zandvoort. Whether it's a lack of practice perhaps, or just the circuit combination not quite gelling, but right now our championship leader has it all to do. One driver that doesn't have it all to do and has it quite easy for the first lap at least is Dylan Walker. Pole position by just 0.02 of a second. That is a great effort from both those drivers to set some great lap times. And once again, the Südspeed Sportscar Series proving it can make some very, very close qualifying results. David Turnbull and Brandon Groach will share row number 2 on the grid, respectively. And what can Brandon do from that spot? Hopefully move forward and get some vital points back in the championship fight. Peter Smith kicks things off from position number 5, with Vinny Nguyen starting from 6th spot on the 3rd row of the grid as well. He will start ahead of Dean Powell and Eric Fenson, who we saw getting a draft from his brother in qualifying. Couldn't quite hook it up at the end, but nonetheless, plenty of pace in those Fenson brothers racing cars. Brenton Morris kicks things off from position number 9, which is a great spot to be for the top 10 invert, but you'd much rather be 10th place, which is exactly where Sebastian Vandel is starting for race number 1.
Starting from 11th place is John Bradshaw alongside Daniel Finney in the Bean Machine number 67. Owen Pyra starts out a lucky 13th alongside Sean Bonici, with Jacques Swanpole starting from 15th place alongside Samuel Lambert. The last two cars to set qualifying times on the 9th row of the grid are Mark Hallowell and Andrew Proctor, with Keegan Caldwell on the back of the grid here for Rapid Racing. We'll see if he decides to take to the grid. He didn't set times in qualifying or practice for that matter. So now it all falls down to the drivers to execute this rolling start behind the iRacing pace car. And there's a very solid chance, Bo, that we might see that safety car come back out with these low visibility settings. Let's take a look at the championship standings very quickly, I think, Bo, before we get into this. This is how things stand coming into this race. We still have a minute left on the grid timer, so time to go through this. Sebastian Vandel, of course, with the big advantage over Brandon Grotch, but it looks to be on for fifth on back. Finney, Pyra, Bradshaw, even Edwards and Walker, they are very solid competition there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's very impressive from Dylan Walker in particular. Of course, ninth in the championship right now, pole position tonight. And you got to remember, he only started the championship back in Aragon as well. So he's made a great little charge from the mid-season as well. So he's clawing back a lot of points. But yeah, that battle all the way up to Daniel Finney is very, very close. I'm looking forward to keeping an eye on how that battle all changes across the night. Of course, we'll keep you updated as best we can, but it is still very much the Vandel show at the top of the championship standings. But starting from 10th place, Brandon Groach in 4th, maybe this is a chance for that 22 car to start turning things around just a little bit more. The iRacing Porsche safety car should be pulling off any moment now, and we will get ourselves ready for what is going to be a 15-minute heat number 1, or race 1 I should say, for this particular event. And there is, of course, a fuel cap restriction in place, but it should not be any kind of effect for this first race. No pit stops required. It is a pure flat out race from start to finish. And of course, we can't forget the top 10 invert looming over the drivers' heads as well. Rounding ourselves through the penultimate corner of the track, with the last proper challenging corner, the drivers will roll themselves at just 60 kilometers an hour. And it's all going to be under the control very soon of Dylan Walker. What can he do from the front? We've seen him win a race already in the feature race at Aragon earlier this season. Can he get a second win of the season as well? Drivers still holding very, very slow, waiting for the command to put their right foot on the pedal. It is lights out, and away we go for round 6 of the Südspeed Sportscar Series here at Zandvoort. It's a great initial jump from Dylan Walker as they funnel in, all single file behind, but the mid-pack still as feisty as ever. The drivers skating on cold tyres and cold conditions. Already plenty of snaps of oversteer from many a drivers, and Vandel's made contact, lucky to hold on to it. There is a spin in the background though, and John Bradshaw out into the wall.
Yeah, Bradshaw with a big wall contact there. It was Dean Powell who was spinning sideways there on the way into Hugenholtz. I saw a third car involved in that too. Looks like Owen Pyra. So we already have a few casualties from lap 1 and varying levels of damage besides. It's still on for the lead though. Henry Fenson in the number 10 getting up the inside of Dylan Walker potentially. He's trying hard coming into this twisty section of the lap. And look who's up to third, Brandon Grotch.
Absolutely, he's making a charge. He knows how critical it is to make hay while the sun shines nice and early. But the driver that is just piling on more pressure than you could ever believe is Henry Fenton, the blowtorch, already onto Dylan Walker. And he cracks a lockup into that very tight corner. Somehow, some way, decides to hold on to it this time around. But Henry Fenton, gloves are off. He is here for a fight.
Absolutely. This has been a great first lap from Henry Fenton. He's been piling the pressure on Dylan Walker there, and it looks like Walker's been able to hold it off for now. But end of lap 1 here, we're expecting this to be a 10-lap race 1, potentially 11 if the leader can go fast enough. So there's not much time to sort out positions here. The other Fenton, Eric, alongside Daniel Finney coming out of Tarzan, and it looks like he'll defend that position. Tarzan's one of those corners where you can very easily hold the outside, and here at Hugenholtz you have to run the outside line because that's where the banking is.
Absolutely, you can just see the difference in exit speed just from taking that far wider line. That momentum is carried all throughout this winding uphill sections of S's. The corners themselves are fairly easy through that section, but if you are just a little bit too slow out of that bank's turn number 3, you are going to pay that price for a long time. So that's something for the drivers to keep an eye on as they all funnel in single file for now, which is great to see. A bit more of a rhythm starting to take place in this race, which is great to see. But nonetheless, Dylan Walker unable to escape out the front as we see a battle here. Sam Lambert having a bit of a crack at the moment. He finds himself in a great scrap with Andrew Proctor at the moment. So Andrew Proctor, who started in 18th in this race, already up to 14th, but sadly will lose 1 spot courtesy of Lambert. So a good little move and a good little battle there.
Yes, and that's for currently the last running position out of all the drivers who still have not taken to the pits. John Bradshaw, who we saw with that heavy contact on the way in, has taken to the pits. Here's what happened to Pyra. So there goes Powell spinning, and looks like the car next to Pyra was avoiding action there. Powell managed to actually escape from all of that with minimal damage, but it was Bradshaw who came off worst.
And we've just had contact there, which included Vondel, but the driver that's paid the biggest price is Eric Fenson as well. We'll get a look at that in just a few moments as well. You can see Dean Powell there on lap 1 going around. Looks like he gets away without too much damage. Definitely less than John Bradshaw did, but still a little bit of chaos happening for our drivers. And what you see here, heading into turn number 1 at Tarzan, is Vondel and goes for a bit of a look at Peter Smith, who I think was just fighting in his own little battle ahead. Vondel makes a bit of contact, makes a check-up, and unfortunately Eric Fenson just gets hooked on the rear bumper of Vondel, gets sent into the wall.
That's something you see quite a bit in these cars. If there's a difference in pace in the middle of a corner, you tend to see the driver behind being the one spinning with the contact. These things can be very snappy, and not just in a contact situation, in the braking zones as well. You have to be very careful not to downshift these cars too quickly, otherwise there's compression locking on the rear drive shaft, and the car will go around on the way into the corner. Things still looking good for Vondel though. He's managed to get away with a lot of that. He's made his way past Finney. Now he is looking at Peter Smith in the slipstream coming down the start-finish stretch.
Yeah, we're just getting a good representation here of just how powerful that draft is into turn number 1. I've got to say, actually not quite as powerful as I really thought. So Vondel unable to make a move into turn 1 this time around. On that, of course, very Williams F1 inspired livery of Peter Smith. Been great to see him run that all season long. Vondel still running the all-black livery. Still no Altus Australia livery for him, which I think would be a very good-looking car indeed. But nonetheless, very intimidating look anyway. But not intimidating Peter Smith out of position number 6 just yet, as we will go back up to our race leaders right now. Our top 3, Walker, Fenson and Groach, starting to form a little bit of a breakaway from the likes of Turnbull and Newitt.
Yeah, things looking good for our top 3 right now. Turnbull has not been able to get up to pace like the top 3 has, and Vinnie Newen has been steadily working his way up as well. He started in 6th. He was defending quite hard from Peter Smith and has managed to break away from him. Now Newen is getting up to the back of David Turnbull here, coming into Hans Ernstbocht. And I tell you what, it's always nice seeing Vinny doing well. He had a fantastic battle at Aragon. Unfortunately, didn't quite go his way, but let's see if he can redeem himself a little bit here at Zandvoort.
Yes, indeed. We'll see what he can do. It's been a great performance so far, like you touched on. Currently running in the top 5, and does have a little bit of margin back to Peter Smith in position number 6. So all looking good for the number 14 car as things stand. See, they're just lurking in the mirrors of David Turnbull. But nothing too forthcoming in this battle just yet, whereas Dylan Walker still having his mirrors filled by Henry Fenson. The intensity's died down a little bit in Fenson's attack, it has to be said. But every lap I've noticed down that start-finish straight, Walker is having to weave left and right a little bit. He's trying to break the draft into Tarzan.
Yes, and it looks like Henry Fenson is still keeping up that attack, isn't he? Oh, take it easy there, just catching the grass on the way in. That got him unstable, sent him wide. So now that's going to bring Brandon Grotch into the fight for second. But when Fenson is able to keep it clean, you can see that he is piling the pressure on Dylan Walker for the race lead. And in fact, they're very well matched in terms of lap times. They're running 29.2s and 29.3s at the front of the field, which tells me we might go 11 laps in this first race.
Yeah, I believe we will. According to my timing screen, we are looking at 11 laps right now. So we'll see if that continues. Of course, like I mentioned earlier, shouldn't be any concern for pit stops or anything of that. Like, it's still an all-in-all-out sprint race for these drivers. But yeah, the pace is very quick. In fact, all three drivers set their fastest lap of the race last lap around. And that time around, Dylan Walker matched it to within 0.004 of a second. And the same can be said for Brandon Roach as well. Just a bit of a loss for Henry Fenson. That little mistake we saw in the mid-phase of the lap. But regardless, these guys really are in a class of their own right now, which is great to see. And bodes well, especially for race number 2. If they can play some good pitch strategy, should be fairly effective to work their way through that top 10 invert. Make some positions up nice and easily as well. But right now, they work their way through this very fast right-hander, which is where we also find David Turnbull and Vinny Nguyen. And Vinny Nguyen's definitely caught up a little bit over that last lap. We'll have a look at the lap times, and it's a 29.5, plays a 29.7, so 2/10 in the favour of Nguyen last time around. David Turnbull, you've got your work cut out for you.
Yeah, he's driving very well, though. Despite losing a position to Brandon Groach in the first lap or so, he's done a good job to hold on to that 4th place, and Vinny is going to have to drive the wheels off that car to get it done. Speaking of driving the wheels off the car, Owen Pyra, who's still carrying some damage from earlier, is in a fight with Dean Powell, who was the driver who spun on lap 1. And it looks like Pyra is going to make up the position coming into the chicane. Nicely done there. That's one of the Formula 1 upgrades working nicely. The track was widened on the way into that corner from its previous layout. New fastest lap, meanwhile, Dylan Walker setting a 29.0. So I think Henry Fenson is going to have to try and find something else to do here if he wants to try and take the race lead.
Yeah, Dylan Walker's just got sick of this little battle and he's decided to run away from it as fast as he can. And it's appearing to be super effective as well. So that's awesome for him. As we get a look at Owen Pyro there, great to see the webcam on and working the wheel there through turn number 1. A bit of a shame there's no Südspeed gloves, but I'm sure we can try and fix that at some point. But nonetheless, he is doing a great recovery drive right now after those lap 1 issues. And you never know, sometimes you just need to keep circulating, and with a little bit of unfortunate luck for some of your competitors, he could very quickly find himself back in the top 10, which again would end up being pole position for race number 2. So very much worth circulating around on track and seeing what he can make happen. Let's have a look at his lap times, and yeah, he's running some decent pace right now, so we'll see what he can do and if he can get any more spots before the race is done.
Yeah, he's back to the position he qualified in, that being 13th. So it's only up from here. Speaking of up the top of the field, I was watching Dylan Walker on my end, and when he went through the left-hand hairpin in the middle of the lap, he actually suffered a bout of oversteer. There was a slight snap from the number 53, so he's not immune to making mistakes and could certainly be under pressure once more from Henry Fenson in about half a lap's time. And keeping an eye on how things are going for our 4th and 5th place runners, they actually seem to be making up a tiny bit of ground on the top 3 here, so we could see a 5-way battle for the lead by the end of the race.
Yeah, we potentially could, although time is starting to run out based on the lap times we're seeing right now in this race, and with the time they had when they crossed the start-finish line. I'm expecting 3 laps to go, so I don't think we'll quite get 11 laps. I think we will still be cut off at the 10-lap mark. So 3 laps to go for our drivers right now. Dylan Walker still leads from Fenson and Brennan Groach. But yeah, the quickest lap times last time around overall seem to come from 4th and 5th place, with the only real exception being Brandon Groach in P3, who was the fastest car on track last time around, almost half a second quicker than Dylan Walker. So plenty of pace in the 22, just hasn't been able to hook it up over the full race distance yet.
Sean Bonici and Eric Fenson, look at this. That's a big dive there from Eric, who, remember, started 8th and is trying to work his way forward after the unfortunate spin coming out of the first corner. That's a good position for him made up on Sean Bonici. And despite the slight damage he's carrying, his lap time's still looking all right. About 1:30 flat is his average pace from what I can see. So one Fenson not having the best of races, the other working very nicely and getting the fastest lap back.
Yes, indeed. Henry Fenson on the charge right now. He's got the gap down to just half a second. He was closer to 8/10 just a few moments ago. And you've got to remember, he's caught by a tenth and, well, about 2/10 over Dylan Walker on that last lap. And Dylan Walker matched his fastest lap to within 3,000ths of a second, or 300ths of a second. So Dylan Walker's still very much pushing. It's just the case of Henry Fenson being a little bit faster in this late stage of the race, or perhaps that draft just being all the more beneficial for him as they work their way through this long right-hander, which you have to get yourself back over to the right of the track very quickly to set up for this, once again, long left-hander. It's a very difficult track to get a flow on, but right now, Henry Fenson absolutely in the flow.
Yeah, doing very nicely right now. 2/10 taken out of Dylan Walker on the previous lap. 1:50 remaining in the race, and considering lap times are running about 1:30, I think it's going to be borderline whether or not we see a 10 or 11 lap race here. Only 10 seconds left to really decide that. And as they come up to the start finish line, 33, 32,
I'm seeing the
31.
white flag.
Yeah, okay, so they have called the white flag here at the moment. It is going to be a 10-lap race, which means the pressure is now on for Henry Fenson.
It is, especially when Dylan Walker punches in a 28.7 last lap around. If you need to respond to a 28.8 from Henry Fenson, doing a 28.7 on the very next lap is a great way to do it. The white flag in the air, and Dylan Walker in the white car right now is doing everything he needs to hold off Henry Fenson right now. But all these corners are so easy to make the smallest misjudgment and throw the car off the road. So he's not out of the woods yet by any means. We've seen wiggles from him before. You can see through this long right-hander, he gets the car to the apex nice and early. He's driving this one very controlled right now, Reese.
Yeah, it looks like, he has the gap he needs over Henry, and all he needs to do is keep the car straight, keep it safe, don't take too much out of the curbs. This is one of the places where that can really upset you. The orange anti-cut, he avoids it on the inside. Nicely done there. Just a couple more corners to go, and one of them is a flat-out run to the line.
Absolutely, and he'll be very thankful for that, because right now he has negotiated the final proper challenging corner. All he has to do now is keep his foot to the floor, and Dylan Walker takes his second win of the season. He takes race 1 of round 6 of the Südspeed Sportscar Series. A great drive from pole position with Henry Fenson. A great effort as well, piling the pressure on in second, with Brandon Groach rounding out our podium as well, as the rest of our drivers all funnel their way across the line. Not seeing any real battles across the finish line right now, as Owen Pyra will come across the line just narrowly behind Sean Bonici. So a good effort there from him, try and close that gap down. But right now, I think we have just about our finishing order all nice and settled.
Yep, just a few more cars waiting to cross the line. Powell, Proctor and Bradshaw at the back of the field. 3 drivers who are certainly looking for redemption in the second race here. That was a good race to kick things off here at Zandvoort. Now we are going to get into the warm-up between sessions, where we can talk about our prizes, etc. But of course, I think we'll have to run through those race results first.
Yep, we absolutely will. And it's worth noting as well, for those interested, our finish time for the race did actually end up being 14 minutes and 58 seconds. So for a 15-minute timed race, we did technically just get robbed of a lap there, but we'll try and ignore that, as Dylan Walker does take the checkered flag after 10 laps. A great drive there from him, and he would hold off Henry Fenson and Brandon Groach, who finishes third and gets some good points on his championship rival as well. David Turnbull will finish in 4th place after holding off Vinnie Nguyen. Those guys had a nice little time trial battle between themselves. Never quite saw them side by side, but maybe we will in race number 2. Peter Smith had a busy race as well, with a little bit of contact at one point with Sebastian Vandel, but both would eventually finish 6th and 7th, and we'll be hoping for a good result in race 2. Daniel Finney will bring the Bean Machine home in position number 8, ahead of Brenton Morris, Jacques Swanpole, who takes our pole position for race number 2.
Eric Fenson, well, he was on for a top 10 finish, but unfortunately contact put paid to that. He finishes 11th ahead of Sean Bonici and Owen Pyra, who managed to recover back to a starting position of 13th. Samuel Lambert up 2 places. Dean Powell down from 7th to 15th with the spin on the first lap. Proctor and Bradshaw are your last 2 finishers. Hallowell and Caldwell did not take to the start. Hopefully we'll see Mark in, as he did set a time in qualifying. But Keegan Caldwell, I think we're not going to see much more of tonight.
No, I don't think so, which is a shame. And we hope to see Keegan back in the future rounds as well. But nonetheless, we have plenty of cars to keep ourselves very busy and entertained. And also to make things difficult for us, Reese, to decide our driver of the day, which is voted by us in the commentary booth. And one of those drivers who was voted driver of the day will be walking home with a Südspeed t-shirt, which is just one of many great prizes up for offer.
Yeah, indeed. $200 cash prize for the championship winner, and every round winner receives a pair of Südspeed gloves. We both have Südspeed gloves, Bo, and I think we're both very happy with them. Certainly up for some fantastic running in that little bit of sim gear. You can go to Südspeed.com and grab yourself a pair, and there's free shipping if you're in Australia or New Zealand, so get on it.
Yep, absolutely. And if you do want to get a little bit of money off as well, don't be afraid to use the discount code Sportscar Spectator as well, and I believe that code is for 10% off your order as well. So that would be very cool as well. Get yourself a pair of these great gloves, just a little bit cheaper as well. And of course, shipping is very much open. Lots of international options as well. So wherever you are in the world, don't be afraid to try and order some of them as well. Well, 2 minutes left in warm-up right now as the drivers get themselves ready for what is a much longer race number 2. And this is always the fun one for me, Reese, because we have to talk strategy, because fuel saving always comes up as an option. And last time out at the Red Bull Ring, it was fuel saving that eventually decided the entire race result.
Yeah, absolutely. There was issues over whether or not there'd be a 2-stopper, 1-stopper, no stopper, and certainly the drivers that took care of that came out on top. Only 48% is the fuel tank capacity for the second race here. I'm wondering whether or not it's going to be hugely relevant here at Zandvoort, just because there's not as much time spent on full throttle as there is at the Red Bull Ring. But I would expect pretty much everyone to come into the pits for a little bit of extra fuel here. It will be interesting to see, though. We've been fed a little bit of information. Approximately 19 laps to a tank, so the fuel stop in race 2 will be for approximately 5 laps of fuel, or 13 litres. I don't know if you're going to be able to save that much over 35 minutes.
Oh, I definitely don't think you will. And just thinking about that, even if we did get ourselves faced with a safety car intervention, even then, that's a lot of fuel to save. So you might be able to reduce the amount of fuel you have to take. But yeah, I don't think we're going to be seeing anybody cutting out an entire pit stop tonight, which is great for us, I think. It provides a lot more strategy with who's going to be pitting early, who's pitting late, and all that sort of jazz. So this will be very cool to see what the drivers come up with. So we have seen some very creative strategies across the season as well. Just another reminder as well before we get back to the racing, there is our viewer discount up on screen, Sportscar Spectator for 10% off. And free shipping as well, so it's an even better deal than I first originally thought. So definitely jump onto that at www.südspeed.com. But for us now, we turn our attention to race number 2. It is going to be a chaotic 35 minutes, a 24 lap maximum at the moment. But what we're going to do is, of course, turn our top 10 finishers from race number 1 and flip them on their head. And what that means, Jacques Swanpole will kick things off from pole position today. Brenton Morris will start from position number 2 on the front row of the grid, which is a great effort from him. And Daniel Finney in the infamous or famous, whichever one you go with, the Bean Machine starts from position number 3. Sebastian Vandel kickstarts his race from position number 4, which sounds great, but it has been a bit of a lackluster performance so far for Vandel, so is he able to maintain that position that high up in the running order? He'll start ahead of Peter Smith in position number 5, with Vinnie Nguyen in position number 6. David Turnbull kicks things off on the 4th row of the grid alongside Brandon Groach, who got a podium in race number 1, but was beaten by our drivers starting 9th and 10th, Henry Fenson and Dylan Walker.
Eric Fenson's going to start out of 11th alongside Sean Bonici. Then we've got Pyra and Lambert in 13th and 14th. 15th place, Dean Powers starting alongside Andrew Proctor. And John Bradshaw in 17th place. Looks to me like we do have Lambert and Proctor. They were a bit slow getting off the grid, I suppose you could say, on the straight leading up to Hans Ernst Bocht, but they've all formed up in time, Bo. Now we can take the start here, coming down to the start-finish line. Who will get the best jump?
Well, we're going to find out very soon, but right now I have no predictions at all because Swampole and Morris is a very competitive front row of the grid, and don't be surprised if Vandel tries something a little tricky as well from position number 4. Swampole holds the field at 80 kilometers an hour for as long as he can before he puts his foot to the floor. We're underway for race number 2 here at Zandvoort. It's Swampole leading from Morris as the field dives their way into Tarzan Corner. Lockups already, drivers scratching around for grip. They're all skating around. It's great to see as we work our way now into turn number 2 and then the ultra high speed. Turn number 3, Peter Smith, and he goes around in front of Groach and also Vinnie Nguyen around.
Oh, well, once again, 3 cars involved at the third turn of the race there, and one of them is the championship second place driver. So Groch is going to have to work hard now to regain those places. He'll be hoping either for a safety car or maybe we'll try and save a bit of fuel coming through the field and get a slightly quicker pit stop that way. That might help him make up positions. Still fighting hard at the front of the field though, Swampole, Morris and Vandel as, Finney runs off. He went a little wide. That's unfortunate there for the number 67, and there's still drama going on all throughout this field.
Yeah, absolutely. Finney rejoins right into the middle of a pretty aggressive little pack right now with the likes of David Turnbull and Henry Fenson fighting it away as Fenson goes late on the brakes around the outside, which turns to the inside, but that's now left Finney high and dry, and Owen Pyra's having a bit of a look there up the inside, can't quite do it, as Eric Fenson behind as well also looking. So a great little gaggle of cars here, all trying to work themselves through this opening lap, try and gain any positions they can or not lose any positions. But I think we're side by side a little bit higher up as Vandel is trying to go around the outside of Brenton Morris. Can't quite do it yet, but he's still there, almost forced into the gravel as Vandel. And eventually Morris has to concede and Vandel into P2 already.
Yeah, that was a really good move around the outside of Tarzan there, and Vandel is immediately on the attack here to try and get past Swampole into the lead of the race. Definitely showing why he's the one in the lead of this championship. So that's the fight over for second for the time being. We'll keep an eye on that as we grab a replay of the start. Peter Smith driving hard with Vinnie Nguyen here. There was contact between them on the way into Hugenholtz. Unfortunate there. And, well, looking at that, Groch really had nowhere to go.
No, not at all. You can see he was committed to running the high line through turn number 3, which is the racing line. And unfortunately, just sort of found himself a little bit pinched. And we'll even jump on board with Groach here, and you'll get a real sense of just how little he really could do. As you'll see the Williams car spin in front, and Groach really just stuck between a rock and a hard place. And very unfortunate to see his race come to such a close so soon.
Yeah, well, it's not over yet. We still have plenty to come here. It looks like there's going to be a move for the lead. Jacques Swampole ran into the gravel on the second last corner exit, and that's going to give the run here to Sebastian Vandel on the way down the start-finish straight. He is by before they even get to the braking zone for turn 1. Immediately defensive and holds the position beautifully.
Yes, indeed. So a great little pass there for Sebastian Vandel into the lead now. Does he have the pace to try and pull away? We know how quick he's been all season so far, But this track has proved to be a little bit of a testing ground for him. And the other driver who's making some good progress on this opening phase of the race, Dylan Walker, in position number 4 already after starting in 10th place. And, well, he's got the fastest lap to boot, some 1 second quicker than Vandel last lap around.
It's been a great run from Dylan Walker, hasn't it? I expected him to have a bit tougher of a time working his way through. I'm seeing that Dean Power's fallen down the order meanwhile. Looks like a bit of an issue there for the 999. And there's a spinner behind him too. Andrew Proctor's gotten into the Armco barrier coming out of the Masters corner. So the chaos is still continuing here on the 3rd lap.
Absolutely. Thankfully, the 380 recovers from their 360. And we'll continue back on the track. But a shame for Andrew Proctor to lose all that ground there. And we'll even get a Südspeed replay of what exactly has happened here. This is Andrew Proctor. So we'll have a look at what happened to him first before getting an idea of what happened to Dean Powell. And just through that corner, a little bit wide on entry. And I wonder if he almost found some marbles on the corner entry there. And that really helps the car around.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. He went a little bit too deep into the corner anyway. Keep an eye here on Dean Powell, who's just ahead of John Bradshaw here. This is still on the replay. What happened to Powell was coming out of Schijvlak, which is this beautiful sweeping right-hander, just got loose on the way in. And good on him to recover that, but still not what he wanted. He has dropped 3-4 positions because of that one mistake.
Yeah, that was very impressive because we've seen a lot of drivers when a car is that kind of a snap in these Ligiers, it tends to be fairly unrecoverable. Not many drivers so far this season have had even a chance at catching the car. So for Dean Powell to get away with that as lightly as he did is actually a very good effort indeed. We'll go back up the order a little bit and take a look at Daniel Finney, who I'm sure is a little bit disappointed right now with how his race has gone. But as he touched the race, there's still a long way to go right now. I'm sure the Bean Machine has his eyes firmly focused on going forward, even if that is a little bit tough with Owen Pyra coming right down the barrel right now.
Yeah, Pyra up to 8th spot now, and that is where he sorry, I've got my positions confused there. He is way better now, big net gain from where he started in the first race. And remember, he had to work his way back up to 13th after a spin. He's going to pick up the slipstream on Finney here, coming out of the final corner. I love the change that they've made to Arie Luyendyk-Bocht. It's a fantastic bank, flat-out turn now. Vandel, fastest lap in the lead. Nice to see. Nothing doing for Pyra at the moment, but if he can get the exit of Hugenholtz right, might be able to have a run later on in the lap.
Yep, he absolutely might. So we'll keep an eye on this little battle for 7th and 8th right now between these two, the Bean Machine and Owen Pyra, the privateer. But I also want to turn our attention back up to the fight position number 2, because Swampole under a lot of pressure from Brenton Morris right now. We can't forget that Dylan Walker and David Turnbull and Henry Fenson are all very quickly bottling up behind as well. So Swampole has a very, very tough task coming up right now, because he has 3 or 4 very fast race cars charging up behind. And the first of those is Brenton Morris, who's been really on the rear gearbox of the 101 car for quite a few laps now.
Yes, indeed. And you also see David Turnbull in there as well. Henry Fenson is trying to make up for some unfortunate runnings in race 1 and not being able to take victory from Dylan Walker. So keep an eye out for him. He's still up 3 places right now. So big net gain, which is nice to see, but he could certainly do with a few more spots. And remember, we are still a long way away from pit stops for most of the field, but not for Henry Fenson, apparently.
Yeah, no, that's really caught me by surprise. I'm just going to check the standings. Yeah, no penalties or anything looming over Henry Fenson. Well, actually, if we were thinking 19 laps to a tank, he's reverse engineering this race, isn't he?
Yeah, he's going to go long.
That's what Henry Fenson's doing. He's reverse engineering it. So he's got the car fully topped up now. He should theoretically be okay to go to the end of the race, but that's a big gamble, especially if we get a safety car or something. That's going to be very interesting to see how that pans out. Now, let's just have a little bit of a reminder as well that if we do get a safety car, it's not a manual safety car, it's the iRacing automated safety car, which does run to some old NASCAR regulations. So basically, when the safety car comes out, the pits are closed until the second cycle around the track. So anyone who has pitted before the safety car could potentially get a decent gain. But for Fenson, I still consider this a bit of a gamble.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a pretty clean race so far. Nothing I've seen in either race so far that has warranted a safety car. We did see them a little bit earlier on in the season, but the drivers have very quickly sorted themselves out in that respect. And, is this a go for the pits here? Oh, okay, there goes Brenton Morris. Righto, interesting stuff. So that's a good response there. I'm interested to see if this is going to work out for Morris. Remember, he's kind of responding to Henry Fenson here.
Yeah, he absolutely is, but I also wonder if a little bit of that reason to pit, along with the rest of the drivers pitting, which includes Dean Power and I believe Peter Smith as well, these drivers, or for Brenton Morris I should say, he was under a lot of pressure from Dylan Walker behind as well. So I do wonder if a little bit of this strategy is just to get himself out of any sort of danger zone and really try and consolidate a good finishing position, as these guys on the rejoin get very close indeed. Fenson should get the position, although Morris is going to get the exit drive here, so this could be on.
Yeah, wow, okay, this is going to be a battle all the way to the end between these two. Owen Pyra, I've noticed, has lost a few positions. I think he's had a bit of an off-track excursion. No, he stayed on the track, but he had a big old slide. Well, the tyres coming back up to temperature here after spending a little bit of time cooling down in the pits for Brenton Morris. Henry Fenson, his tyres are already well back up to temperature now. And that little bit of an... I've seen Eric Fenson and John Bradshaw. I think they just had a huge crash. John Bradshaw missing the front end of his car and stopped on the racetrack. He is going to get back going, but I think that deserves a replay, Bo.
I definitely think so as well, because there is a lot of damage to the Black Hawk Motorsport car. And yeah, there has been something very major go on, as well for Sam Lambert, who has also gone off the track. So, and that's probably in a little bit of a dangerous spot. And the safety car comes out. So after everything I said about Henry Fenson and his strategy, this could be huge.
Certainly could be. And you saw that there were plenty of cars that came into the pits there in response to Lambert stopped on the track. Brandon Groch, Owen Pyra, Eric Fenson, Vinnie Nguyen, and John Bradshaw as well. They, I think most of them at least, managed to get into the pit lane before the safety car was called and the pit lane entry was closed.
Well, we sure hope so, because if they hadn't, that will be a black flag penalty when the race does eventually restart. But we'll wait and see how that is all going to transpire, because of course, like I mentioned, the pits are closed right now. You can't come into the pits if you want to. So for Vandel, all of his 4.9 second lead over Jacques Swampole, that doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. It doesn't count. And that is all going to be closed up very, very soon as well. So this is going to be very interesting to see how this all pans out. Of course, these drivers now are in a big disadvantage to everyone who is pitted. So realistically, Henry Fenson in a great spot ahead of Brenton Morris and Brandon Groch as well, who I'm currently seeing scored very high up in the standings. Could Groch maybe snatch victory from the jaws of defeat?
Yeah, remember, he was involved in the incident on lap 1, wasn't he? He went into Peter Smith. So to see him now in effective third right now of the cars that have pitted, that's a massive turnaround there for the driver in second place in the championship. The field have been collected behind the safety car. We're going to see what happened to John Bradshaw here. And this is how Eric Fenson got involved. Just a trip across the gravel trap. I'm also interested to see what happened to Sam Lambert here. So he comes into the Hans Ernst chicane. And what happened there? That wasn't contact.
At the mid-corner, he sort of tried to correct an oversteer or an understeer moment that wasn't, at least from the in-car, particularly
he was avoiding John Bradshaw, making a dangerous re-entry back onto the racetrack.
Well, that is one of the best sort of representations of just how little visibility there truly is in these LMP3 cars. Because from our perspective, you could see nothing from Lambert's perspective, but that really was nothing he could do. And unfortunately, a bit of a poor rejoin has had big consequences.
Yeah, certainly has. Oh, that's such a shame. And I get the feeling race control is going to be having a look at that rejoin for John Bradshaw, because that was just straight up unsafe. Not really getting the memo that there were cars coming up on him. And I mean, he obviously would have tried to flick it around, but these cars have traction control, so it would have been difficult for him to do that. In any case, going straight back onto the racing line after a spin, well, that's the only way that is going to turn out. The safety car is now coming up to the end of this lap, and I think it's been out for...
It should be its second lap.
Yeah, so the pit lane should open, right?
I'm under the impression of that as well, so we'll wait and see exactly what happens, because even if the pits are open, a lot of these drivers running from first to fifth right now may choose not to pit and may just hope for maybe a little bit of a chaotic restart or something to spread the field out and take their pit stop a bit later on. But of course, you also then run the risk of losing the chance to actually catch up to the other drivers who have pitted as well. So they're in a bit of a difficult spot right now, whether they pit or not. And I think Vandell's going to commit to pitting. Is that Dylan Walker I'm seeing not pitting? I don't know if that's quite the best call. So he's going to go for the other strategy I thought of, which is basically stay out and hope you can build a big gap on the restart and go from there. But I don't know. I reckon that's maybe a bit too far, unless he thinks he can make it to the end on no stops.
Yeah, that is a possibility. The question is just how much fuel are you able to save under a safety car? Series organizer Richard Mayer from Südspeed said in his notes to us that potentially even with a safety car, it would be difficult to make it stop free. Jacques Swanpole, meanwhile, has gotten the undercut here on everyone else who came in with him. What was his pit stop time? 7.4 seconds. That is the second quickest pit stop we've seen so far. Sean Bonici stopped for 6.4 seconds that time by, but that was his second visit to the pit lane. So I think effectively the winner of fastest pit stop is Jacques Swanpole for the time being. And with this safety car, I think he now knows he isn't going to need as much fuel as he thought to get to the end of the race. So he was able to be stopped for less time.
According to my timing screens as well, Swampole and David Turnbull actually recorded identical stop times at 7.4 seconds.
Yeah, they did.
But critically, Vandell 9.1. So has Vandell failed to factor in the lower fuel burn for these safety car laps? And has that potentially cost him 11th or 12th spot right now? Jacques Swampole, that could be a big error, especially when we see the likes of Brandon Groach in 5th place right now for this championship.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think Vandell is far enough ahead at this point that he doesn't need to worry about a bad result here or there, but he'd still like to keep up his very good, consistent finishing record in this series.
He definitely would. But yeah, plenty to think about here as the iRacing Porsche safety car turns off its lights, so the safety car will be in at the end of this lap. But critically, what does Dylan Walker and Daniel Finney do at this point in time? Of course, our race 1 winner and the Bean Machine all out there by them lonesome effectively as the only drivers not to take a pit stop currently. That could be a big strategy call if they can indeed make it to the end of the race without taking a pit stop. But we were predicting that the realm of about 13 litres would be needed to save to make it to the end. And I'm just saying 13 litres at a track like Zandvoort to fuel save, that is an enormous ask. You can see right now 6th gear, and how many rev lights are on there, Reese? I'm going to say 0.
Yeah, big fat goose egg. Walker is saving as much fuel as he can under this safety car. The lights are out, and we will get back to racing action in just a few moments' time. So, keep an eye on Walker and Finney at the front of the field. Only 2 drivers to not come into the pits here, and Walker is going to stay trundling along in 6th gear as long as he possibly can.
Yep, absolutely. And another thing we have to factor in as well on this restart, these tyres, they're probably stone cold once again. And how many times have we seen incidents on lap 1 so far on the restarts or the starts of the race? I believe it's 2 out of 2. And they often say things come in threes. The control of the race is handed over to Dylan Walker. He's been at the front for most of this event, but this may be the most stressful time for him all week long. The green flag is out and we are underway once more as our drivers get themselves racing once more for round number 6 and race 2 of the Südspeed Sportscar Series, funneling back into towards Tarzan corner. The long right-hander, power your way out. And then into the corner, we've seen all the chaos thus far. Is that 3 wide I'm seeing as well? Oh. And around goes Bradshaw. Oh no!
Vandel
for Sebastian Vandel into the wall. And that is a disaster for him. We'll see if he can continue on in this race. And by the looks of it, no, he can't. But there's a black flag for Brandon Groach as well.
Oh, wow. Well, so what happened there? Was that... okay, so it's either passing a car before the start-finish line or going into a closed pit under safety car. So those are the only options I can think of. Either that or he sped in the pit somehow. I honestly don't know. But we'll see here for Vandel. No, actually, we'll look at Groach first to see what happened to him. So it looks like the start was fine. So that was a black flag from before.
I've got to think that's a pitting under the closed caution. We knew it was going to be tight with that safety car timing. I think Roach, he did the right thing, trying to be opportunistic with it. It was probably his best chance at a result, but I just don't think it's paid off. But Vandel, 3 wide on a restart, he's done that all by himself, and I think he'll be kicking himself about that one. As we also see, I think, was that Bradshaw?
Yeah, John Bradshaw. Yeah, he also went off there, and he's been given a black flag by race control for the rejoin on lap 7. Interestingly, Brandon Groach's black flag has been cleared by race control. So I don't know what the deal is with that black flag, but evidently race control deciding that it's unfair.
All right, well, no worries. We'll try and get some clarification on that as well. But yeah, well, that's great news for Brandon Groach, who will now maintain 4th position. And we'll see what happens for the rest of this race. His challenge right now is getting past Daniel Finney, who has already lost the spot to Henry Fenson on this lap. So a strong lap from Henry Fenson. He is our effective race leader, assuming Walker cannot make it to the end of this race. Walker yet to pit. Fenson and P2 has. So at the moment, Henry Fenson is in a great spot to try and make this a race win in race number 2.
Absolutely. We got news for Owen Pyra, and it's bad news. Black flag from race control for running into the back of Jacques Swanpole, which actually ended up taking taking John Bradshaw off as well. So race control right on that one as we keep our eyes peeled here, coming down the start-finish stretch and into the pits there for Owen Pyra. He won't be too happy with how his race has gone, but the battles are still going on here. Eric Fenson on the inside of Peter Smith coming through turn 1, and he's going to try and make it up here on Brenton Morris as well. They are so close coming into the 3rd turn, and there you go. The outside line is where you want to be, even dipping low on the exit. That worked out for Eric Fenson, but for Peter Smith, he's got Vinnie Newen and Dean Powell right on the back of him.
Absolutely. What a great little battle here. Does Dean Powell think about the inside? No, he can't, because Vinnie Newen covers it off in beautiful fashion there. Great to see as they work their way through this ultra-fast section of the racetrack. These guys are fighting tooth and nail, which is fantastic, and they all get single file finally. So we'll see how this little battle transpires, but what a nice little pack of cars from Brenton Morris in position number 5 right now, falling back all the way to David Turnbull in 10th.
There's a fantastic battle. There's also a good battle going on here for Eric Fenson here, trying to find his way past Brenton Morris. He hasn't quite been able to make an impression on him. And Eric's brother Henry in second place up the front of the field. He almost had a go at Dylan Walker early on in the lap, but it looks like Dylan has started to pull away from him once again. So 2 blue cars chasing 2 white cars. Let's see how this race turns out with 11 minutes left on the clock.
Yep, absolutely. And just to quickly interject with a different point entirely, we're hearing from Richard Mayer, our race control for this series, that iRacing reported that Brandon Groach passed under yellow flag conditions, but after manual review, Richard Mayer has decided to clear that one, as there doesn't believe to be any sort of infraction or passing under yellow from his perspective, so all clear for the 22 to continue fighting on in this race.
All right, so he's still in third place, still trying to catch up to Fenson and Walker at the front of the field.
Yep, absolutely. So at the moment, the top of 5 or so cars all remains fairly stagnant. Walker leads from Fenson. That gap's still very, very close between one another, although I am seeing Peter Smith has got past the driver of Brenton Morris. In fact, it's Brenton Morris just falling down the order ever so slightly. Is there something going on for this driver? I can't see any slowdowns or anything, but he's been very slow the last couple of corners. Finds himself now down in 7th place, and Vinny Nguyen's going to be damn sure he's going to spin it around in dramatic fashion. I thought that was a done deal pass, but it's all gone a little wrong for poor old Vinny Nguyen. A great effort, a great drive, but it comes unstuck on lap number 14. Brenton Morris will continue on in position number 7 for now, but Dean Powell is right up his clacker, and I'm sure going to have a good shot at turn number 1. They go side by side down the front straight. I think Dean Powell's going to get this done as easy as you like, assuming he doesn't compression lock the car, which he doesn't. Expertly passed. Well done.
Yeah, that is the 999 up into 7th place, up 8 spots from where he started. Very nice indeed. And it looks to me like Morris is having a bit of trouble keeping those tyres from locking. He could even face off against David Turnbull here. I think Morris just had a bad lap on the last lap. I didn't really see anything untoward from him, but potentially just off rhythm. Maybe he made a minor error that just compounded as he went through this twisty section of the lap. Meanwhile, the battle for 4th place, Daniel Finney. He's got Eric Fenson right on the back of him here, and he's a little bit wide on entry. He can hook that up on the exit, but the Fenson brothers have been incredibly fast here tonight.
Yeah, they absolutely have. They've got the cars absolutely dialed in, and they're definitely on everyone's watch list right now, because Daniel Finney is under all kinds of pressure. Running wide at the final corner will do him absolutely no favors. I'm sure Fenson's going to try and set up the pass here. Try and get the run, get the drive as Finney almost dips and wheels into the gravel as well. It's all going the Fenson brothers' way right now in the draft. Pulls out, and we'll see what they do as they go side by side down this long front straight. Getting ready for Tarzan corner. There's going to be Fenson on the inside, Finney on the outside, and Fenson with a bit of curb assistance gets the pass done. So Finney down another spot, and he's going to be careful because Peter Smith is lurking in the background.
Yeah, Peter Smith, after getting spun on the first lap, he is certainly in a fantastic position, all things considered. The safety car really helped him out there. Meanwhile, up the front of the field, Dylan Walker still taking the part in logistics, number 53, at speed through many corners. And I mean, he did save a ton of fuel under safety car, but could still be up for a pit stop in the last few minutes of the race if he hasn't saved quite enough. You can see how much Henry Fenson is pressuring him here.
Yeah, absolutely, as we see it pass as well. Peter Smith gets past Daniel Finney. A great little overtake there between those guys. So Finney down another spot. But I'm worried for Dylan Walker because he's not setting fuel save lap time, so to say. He's doing 28.9s last lap around. So he's either extremely confident in his fuel prediction or he knows he can't make it. They're the only 2 options, I think. So something's going on here as we get a replay. This is going to be Peter Smith getting past Daniel Finney. And it was a nice little setup here from Peter Smith. working through this very fast right-hander, and he's going to just dive it down the inside, and Daniel Finney all the more eyes aware and manages to leave plenty of room for that number 69 car to slot onto.
That was a beautifully executed pass there. What happened to Owen Pyra, meanwhile? A little bit offline on the way to Tarzan, and he just caught the end of the curb, which unsettled the rear, and that was some good driving around the outside from Vandel. I don't think he even lifted for that.
No, not at all. I think Vandel has just kept it very calm, very composed, and had plenty of faith in where he was going to place the car. You know, the revs were increasing. Revs were increasing the entire time. Not a care in the world. He's happy in 14th. Well, he's probably not happy in 14th place, but nonetheless, he continues on for another lap or so, trying to get some points in this race. As we take a look at Dean Powell, who's finding himself under pressure from David Turnbull in the Frog Leap Juice racing car right now. So these guys engaged in a fight for 7th and 8th place right now. And Turnbull's had plenty of speed so far in this event. Of course, qualified in 3rd for race number 1 and went on to finish 4th. We know the speed's there in the 702, just hasn't quite been able to make his way forward thus far in this race.
Yeah, it's been difficult, hasn't it? But you know, there's still plenty that can happen in the last 5.5 minutes of this race. And everyone's still very close after the safety car period. Keeping an eye on David Turnbull's laps here. He ran 0.2 slower than Dean Powell on the previous lap. Walker hasn't backed off at all at the front of the field, meanwhile. Fastest lap. You know, I think that if Dylan Walker can keep it out of the pits, this is going to be his drive of the season.
Oh, absolutely. This is a phenomenal display from Dylan Walker right now. But there is still that question mark that we just cannot answer about fuel. But absolutely, I think his pace has been unquestionable. Clearly the fastest driver on track thus far this event. Plenty of pace as well from the Fenson brothers. They've been ultra quick, ultra consistent. But Dylan Walker has just about had an answer every step of the way. But with 3.5 laps to go, we wait and see what happens here, as I'm seeing Daniel Finney getting passed once more, and that's by Dean Powell. So Dean Powell making his way up into position number 6 now, as Finney tries to fight it around the outside, can't quite do it. So unfortunately, in this battle, well, not unfortunately, but what I was going to say is the battle between Dean Powell and David Turnbull, the best thing that Dean Powell could have done in that battle, well, get a car in between yourself and the chasing car.
Yeah, exactly. And for Powell, all he can do now is focus eyes forward and try and keep out of slipstream range, though a little bit of a dip of the wheel into the gravel will certainly put paid to that. Meanwhile, looks like Vandel here has had an issue. That's on the way through Skyblock, and the entry to these fast corners seems to be catching a few drivers out, even Vandel, as we're going to keep our eye out here, because David Turnbull has he tried the move on Daniel Finney, didn't he? It was a big dive at Tarzan.
I think I'd call that a Hail Mary more than anything else. That was a big dive, and very good heads-up display driving once again from Daniel Finney to just unload the steering wheel a bit on entry and leave all the room for this move that you're about to see. A big look up the inside, late on the brakes, and oh boy, the car's not stopping.
Yeah, well, there was plenty of room given by both drivers in that situation, so no harm, no foul, at least for the time being, though maybe Turnbull will take it a little bit easier next time they come to the first turn. You can see, though, that the slipstream is very strong here, especially when you get really close to another car, and as long as you can nail the exit of the final, of the second last turn, you can carry that momentum all the way down to Tarzan. 2.5 minutes remaining on the clock, and it looks to me like Walker is coming up to the start-finish line now. Should be 2 laps to go this time by, and he still stays out of the pits.
He's got to be confident he can make it, surely. So we thought the tank would last 19 laps, and that safety car has taken out so many laps that he might just do this, because realistically, he didn't need to save 13 litres. All he had to do was save maybe 2 laps of fuel. So I'm now quickly turning my opinion around to that. I reckon Dylan Walker can maybe do this, as we see a couple of drivers fall down our leaderboard, and Dean Powell finds himself in a bit of strife, does he?
Yeah, he lost it in the middle of Tarzan, and unfortunately that created a bit of a traffic jam behind him. So we'll keep an eye on him here into this turn, and he just loses the rear. Not the first time we've seen Powell have trouble there, but Finney had to get on the brakes and avoid, and a little bit of a tap for David Turnbull as well. That results in free positions for Vinnie Nguyen, and it looks like potentially Brenton Morris as well, but Morris is still having to fight very hard here.
Yeah, absolutely. This is Turnbull versus Powell at the moment, and these guys have been scrapping the entire way through that replay. These guys are refusing to get off each other, and eventually Dean Powell loses out, gets shoved unceremoniously into the gravel trap on the exit there. But that was a huge battle. Great to see as Morris locks up a little bit and runs himself a bit deep, and maybe that's an opportunity once more for Dean Powell to try and attack past as down. Ooh. Yeah, this should be the last lap of the race.
Yeah, it should be, and unfortunately it looks like the battle for the win is over because Henry Fenson ran ridiculously wide at Tarzan and has lost some crucial time to Dylan Walker, who's still cruising there in the lead. And I mean, if he can pull this off, if he has the fuel left to make it around this lap, it's going to be a magnificent drive here from Walker, who was burst onto the scene in this series and put on some fantastic drives for a driver who was relatively unknown before this.
Absolutely, and I've got to ask the question, just what could have potentially happened if Dylan Walker was on the grid at Donington in round one? It could have been a great fight, but unfortunately it looks like a little bit of an error for Daniel Finney. He's going to see his race come to a very unfortunate ending here through turn number 3. A bit of a snap there, and around he goes. We've seen many drivers do that in practice. Unfortunate for Finney to have that happen in the race, but no such luck has fallen Dylan Walker. He's put his car in all the right places over the last 21 laps and race 1 itself, and out of the final corner for the number 53, Dylan Walker, stand up and applaud. He does the double here at Zandvoort.
Beautiful drive once again. This fantastic drive from Walker as well as Henry Fenson, who comes away with 2 second places from Zandvoort. That'll be second for the round. It's a double podium for Brandon Groch after we thought he was out of the running. Eric Fenson getting into 4th place. Smith in 5th. That's a great recovery there for the number 69.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's been plenty of those stories throughout the race. Those drivers who've worked their way back through the field. Of course, Dean Powell +6, Eric Fenson +7, Dylan Walker +9, Henry Fenson also +7. But other drivers, such as the driver in 13th place, -9 positions. Has to be said, very aggressive on the restart for Vandel, but before that safety car, it looked like he had it all under control. And, well, I think that just about sums up his night there. Nonetheless, he will walk away from tonight as your championship leader once more, as he has done every single step of the way so far this season. But nonetheless, it is still points lost for him and points gained for Brandon Groch, who will finish on the podium in that number 22 car, but he would not have any answer for Henry Fenson in second or Dylan Walker, our race 2 winner, who completes a total clean sweep here at Zandvoort after taking the pole position as well. Eric Fenson in position number 4 ahead of Peter Smith, who gets another top 5 for the season, which is very awesome for him after considering how lap 1 went. Vinnie Nguyen in position number 6 ahead of David Turnbull, Brenton Morris, Dean Powell, and the Bean Machine in P10.
In 11th place, there was what might have been for Jacques Swanpole, who started on pole position. Samuel Lambert made it back out onto the racetrack after his crash that brought out the safety car. Vandel finishing lucky 13th after starting in 4th. Pyra, Proctor, they are the last 2 finishers. Unfortunately, we saw retirements from Sean Benici and John Bradshaw, so only 15 cars making it to the finish from here. Oh, well, that's the way the metaphorical cookie crumbles sometimes, Bo. Either way, we saw some excellent drives today.
Yeah, we absolutely did see some fantastic drives, but I don't think anyone had a better drive than Dylan Walker, who I am now joined alongside with. Dylan, you got the pole position, you won race 1, you won race 2. Do you even want to do an interview, or do you want to just drop the mic and walk out?
No, I appreciate it, mate. Yeah, it was very tough. Obviously, Fenson was pushing me the whole way, so it wasn't as easy as it looked.
Well, definitely you had to work for it in a few places. We saw a few little wiggles and little moments in race number 1, especially under pressure from some of the Fenson brothers. How did you find this car track combo? Was it a difficult one to get used to?
Yeah, it was definitely difficult at the start, but yeah, it was just a lot of laps. Obviously, just put a lot of practice in, and yeah, finding out the kinks of the setup. It was definitely a very difficult track with the different variety of corners, but yeah, after learning it, it worked out pretty well.
What do you think's really been the secret to your success so far? Because of course you joined the season a little bit late at Aragon. Since then, I believe that's your 3rd win now. You've had a pole position. You've had a lot of success. So what do you put that down to?
Getting lucky with strategy, to be honest. Yeah, just, trying to fuel save where I can. Yeah, and getting lucky with the incidents, especially in race 2. Just got very, very lucky. So yeah, I'd say it's more down to that, to be honest.
Well, we'll see how lucky you get at Phillip Island in a fortnight's time. What are your thoughts on Phillip Island?
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it too much, to be honest. Doesn't really suit me all too much, but yeah, we'll put the laps in and we'll see where we shake out.
Well, you've won 3 races now, so you can't let us down from here. Hope to see you at the front next round. Before I let you go, is there anybody you'd like to thank?
Yeah, Part Logistics, D&D Precision, and First 8 Smoke Alarms, as well as all of the Orel boys and Brenton for helping us with the setup.
Well, fantastic, Dylan. Great drive once more, and hopefully see you in a fortnight's time.
Cheers, guys. Thanks.
Oh, there we go. Our round 6 winner won race 1. He won race 2. He made it all look too easy, but he did not have it all too easy because Henry Fenson pushed him every single step of the way. Reese, you're standing by.
I am indeed, Henry. 2nd place in both races, and we've decided to give you driver of the day as well for that brilliantly executed strategy in race 2. Both you and Eric looked very quick today. What do you think was the key to that?
That was all thanks to officials. I spent all week cutting laps there, and not enough obviously because I came up just short. I still haven't worked out how to pass on these things.
Yeah, it can be difficult to execute, but you made plenty of passes through the pit cycle in race 2. Obviously, going for the early stop there. Was that always part of the plan, or were you sensing that something was going to happen and changing your strategy on the fly?
A bit of both. As soon as I was coming from in the pack, I wanted to pit as soon as I could because I knew I had enough pace in the clean air that I could undercut everyone, but that safety car just came out at the worst time and stayed out for too long.
Oh, regardless, you still managed to net a few places from that and come home for 2 P2s on the road, which should result in 2nd place for the round. So that, combined with the Südspeed shirt you're going to be getting in the mail for driver of the day, altogether a very profitable round for you.
Yeah, definitely happy to be on the podium. Can't complain about that. Been working hard to it all season. Only just started driving prototypes, so pretty happy to be up the front by now.
Excellent stuff. Is there anyone you'd like to thank before we let you go, Henry?
Yeah, thanks to Stockman's BPD for jumping on the car. Big thanks to everyone at Südspeed for putting it on. It's been a really awesome season so far and I'm really keen for the Enduro later. And big thanks to you guys for putting on the stream.
Thanks very much, Henry. Hopefully we get another chance to chat to you after racing concludes at Phillip Island.
Hopefully. I was alright there in the officials earlier, so if I do enough laps, maybe I can be up there.
Excellent stuff. Well, that is Henry Fenson concluding his racing action for the day, Bo, and it looks like you are stood by with Brandon Groach, who managed to recover to 3rd in both races.
Yep, absolutely. It was a good points day for Brandon Groach, but it didn't always seem that it was going to turn out that way, Brandon. It was a bit of a difficult race number 2 for you there. Just talk me through it.
Look, in all honesty, the whole sort of weekend event was just difficult for me. I was struggling so hard around here. Just didn't get as much practice in, but did well with race 1, and then race 2 had a bit of a hiccup at the start, but just decided I'd get my head down and try and get the best possible result I could. I was already pitting before that safety car was announced, so I guess it was just good luck, and then just from there, just try to bring it home. I ended up losing audio in the last 2 laps, so Eric almost got me.
Yeah, that is not an easy thing to have happen. I've had it happen to me before. How did you find that in those final 2 laps, having to drive on totally different sensors to what you used to?
It wasn't too hard, like getting around the track. The worst part was just knowing when to shift. I had no clue to do that, especially because I can't see the shift lights in my current view, and I don't have my sim hub set up, so I had no idea when to shift. That was by far the hardest part.
Oh boy, well that's no fun at all, but hopefully no such issues in a fortnight's time when we head to Phillip Island. What are your thoughts around that track? Do you reckon you can get one final race win for the season?
Look, it's going to be difficult. The likes of Dylan, even Henry, those boys were quick tonight. Dylan's been quick the past few weeks, so I would highly expect him to be up there. I'm hoping for at least 1 or 2, especially if for my hunt on Seb. But we'll have to wait and see. I'm just trying to get the best results I can right now.
Well, you did touch on there the championship. It is still a big margin for Sebastian Vandel still leading, but with some 7th places and I think a 12th place tonight for Vandel. You got some big points. Do you still believe the championship is on?
Before this round, I was pretty confident he was going to be done and dusted, but I feel like now, because he missed last round, he's used his drop round. I feel like it's back on now.
Well, we look forward to seeing how that pans out. Before I let you go, is there anybody you'd like to thank?
There is a few sponsors I'd love to thank. Juiced Energy, Simrigs.com, Racecraft, Hyperion Systems, Südspeed Gloves, and the Pet Door Company. And I'd also like to give a shout out to the late great friend Eddie from Eddie's PC Repairs. Very sad to hear about him, and I wish everyone who's dealing with his loss, I hope they handle it well.
Well, my condolences to you there, Brandon, and everyone, of course, who was a friend and a fan of Eddie and everything that he did. But thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully speak to you in a fortnight's time.
Thank you very much, fellas. Hope to see you then.
Well, there we go. That is our top 3 for the night, and here's how the points all shake out at the end of round number 6, and it is still Sebastian Vandel with a decent-sized championship lead, but the lead has come down, Reese, when we factor in those drop rounds.
Yeah, absolutely. It's less than 30 points is the margin now between Vandel and Groch. It could go any way possible at the conclusion of this season. I'm really looking forward to seeing how things work out there. Good on Peter Smith as well. His results tonight keeping him in 3rd spot in the championship. Dylan Walker up to 5th as well. Just a brilliant half season, I suppose you could say, from the number 53.
Yeah, absolutely. You do have to wonder just what he could have done if he had had the full season. It's an interesting prospect, one we won't sadly find out this season, but hopefully if there is any future editions of the Südspeed Sportscar Series, maybe Dylan Walker could be a favourite to look out for. As we see that battle between 5th and 10th or so, that sort of area has sort of extended with Walker, of course, getting those good points tonight, but Finney all the way down to Bradshaw, it's still not over with just 50 points separating those guys. So still plenty of position swaps available in the championship as we head to just 1 round to go, Reese. It's the island. We know it well. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are bring it on. It's a fantastic track, Phillip Island, and certainly is suitable for these downforce producing prototypes. I'm expecting some big slipstream battles, some high speeds, and potentially a few huge dives into Jack Miller Corner and MG, the 2 hairpins on the lap.
Yep, absolutely. It's going to be an awesome finale to the Südspeed Sportscar Series. It's had plenty of highs, plenty of lows, and it all concludes in a fortnight's time here on SimSpeed TV. I'm Bo Albert, alongside me as always, my partner in crime, Reese Gardner, and a big shout out as well to Dan Yeaman for jumping into the producer's chair for tonight. It was awesome here at Circuit Zandvoort, but from us, that is all for now. We will see you in just a fortnight's time.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.